when we're in such a contrasting situation, it's like the dark and the light. You notice the light a lot more when you've been in the darkness.
Yes.
And I wonder if in those prisons there'd been so much darkness that someone just shining a little bit of light into their soul and into their subconscious was so profound. Maybe sometimes it's that whole metaphor, if you've got to hit rock bottom before you start to make your way back up.
Yes.
And I think in that situation, you're, I guess, courage to pursue something that was scary and face the fear and do it anyway kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to just turn up as authentic in your own self.
Yes.
With the fear, I'm sure.
Yes.
But to give that little bit of light to people that had been in the dark. I mean, that's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Quite literally.
Yes. And they say like the wound is the place that the light enters you.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And that's a beautiful quote by
That's Rumi. Yeah.
Yes, the poet. That's always, and that's what I was actually realizing as well in this maximum security prison and in the drug and alcohol rehab centers as well, where they were on a mend. They were on a mend to actually fix, I guess, not fix their lives, but actually enjoy their lives finally in a more natural way, in a way that's not temporary. It's actually driven by who they really are, and learning to enjoy that too. So it took a lot of coming back to the point with personalized meditation. So one size doesn't fit all, and I found that among these 112 techniques, I sort of learned that some were earth signs, so connecting to walking meditation.
Yes.
So some were like water signs as well, so connecting to talking about their emotions, letting go of these emotions. And I remember one particular inmate as well. So after a meditation that we did based on water, based on the element of water, there are a few breathing techniques we did, which really invigorate those emotions to come out and allow you to actually release these emotions that you've been holding on to.
That sort of cellular activity that's been building and building and building.
Absolutely, yes. And then, so after the session, I noticed everyone was packing up, leaving, but there was this one person who was just weeping and weeping and weeping. And after that, I came up to him and I said, "Oh, what's going on? Can you tell me what's going on? Tell me anything. Like, this is a space for you to feel safe, feel nurtured. So tell me." And he said, "This is the first time I've actually processed grief from my mother passing away the last year." And I said, "It's okay. Let it come. Let it go. Let it go." And he said, like, "I've never cried like this. I've always I was always told to be strong and be a man and all those statements that actually because he kept hearing that, be a man, from his own dad when he was growing up. So he thought, okay, men are not allowed to cry, but actually men should be crying.
Well, we've got the ability as men. You've got the ability to cry.
Yeah, tear glands for a reason.
Yeah.
You've
got to use them.
Those tears. Yeah, celebrate those tears and let them come. Yeah. Because when you let them come, releasing emotions is a whole. It's part of your healing process.
Yes.
It's part of again, letting go and being who you really are. So I found that these meditation techniques were really unique because they were not just one size fits all. They were tailored to the individual, to the personalized. So whenever I take on a client, or I always go through their birth chart. So the birth chart is more accurate than just being there and teaching them one sort of technique, which may not be effective to them.
Yeah.
And I find that when people go to these big organizations learning one particular meditation technique, if it doesn't suit them, they will probably lose the whole faith in meditation itself because they haven't explored enough techniques, or they think, oh, is that all? Okay, no, it's not for me. And I've seen so many people like that. But then when I go through their birth chart, I'm like, yeah, this is what suits you. This is your type of meditation. So whether it's mantra chanting, whether it's being around water, even in a shower, like you have a shower meditation, there's a process to that.
Yeah.
And so there are all different types of ways that you can be in this meditative state, which I'm sure you would know as well.
Well, I love it. I love talking about it because as much as I deliver the hypnotherapy, which really I always say to people that say, what's hypnotherapy? I say it's really a guided meditation to begin with.
Yeah.
And I usually spend about 10 minutes doing that. And then, we've kind of looked at that person's individual histories, traumas, stresses, pain. Yes. And so although I'm very ad lib and I never actually use a screed, the screed in my mind is very much based on their individual needs.
Yes.
But I usually also now incorporate EMDR eye movement
lovely.
desensitization,
Great.
reprocessing into it. So what I've started to call it is hypno-bilateral stimulation.
Great.
So you've got that
Yes.
first part, which is hypnosis, and the second part, which is using the brain's ability to process and reprocess.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so it's become a bit of a sort of hybrid.
Yes.
Which again, one of the things that I was thinking as you were saying that about this very organic process that you've had in your learning is that you will, especially with the astrology stuff and past life regression, I do ancestral healing, which is a similar sort of thing.
Yes. Yes.
So we're both doing very similar work, but just calling it slightly different things.
Yeah,
and I always say this to people, look, there's a lot of people doing very similar things out there. There might be slightly different names for it or whatever, but actually we're all good. The good ones are coming from the one source.
Exactly.
And it's not driven by ego. It's driven by wanting to hold the space, but also being flexible with your approach and allowing your unique, authentic self as the teacher, as the therapist, as the coach, to be present with that flexibility.
Exactly.
Which is exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
Except for you're coming from that birth chart point of view as well, which is fascinating.
Yeah, and
really fascinating.
Yes, and coming back to that, it's like every part of our lives is affected with one particular planet as well at certain points in time. So, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll share some insight on your birth chart as well.
Please.
So, tell me, in November 22nd, 2012, did anything significant happen then? Like around
November 22nd, 2012. Do you know what? I feel like that was forever ago. I can't really remember last week, let alone 22nd. 2012 would have been how many years ago?
So
12 years ago. Well, 11 and a half years ago. Let me think. 2012. I can't think of anything that spins off the top of my head.
That's okay. So one thing I noticed is that your Mercury planet and Mars, they're in the same house. So what Mercury and Mars, they're in the third house in your birth chart. So the birth chart's made up of 12 houses, and certain planets are rested in these 12 houses. So depending which houses they're in, reflects certain parts of your life. What Mercury and Mars in the same house means is that, and being a water sign, this makes perfect sense because Mercury is a planet of communication. Mars is a planet of action. So being together, what you say, you actually do. You know how you see a lot of people.
Very much like me.
You hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I should do this. I'll do that tomorrow," and stuff. They may have good Mercury, good way of communicating, but they never put it into action.
No, that's very much like me.
Yes, but you're one that will put it into action and then be driven by it and then go through with it. The other great thing is that you are in a period at the moment of the planet called Rahu. Rahu is a planet of a lot of thinking with the mind, but thinking as in like you're thinking of a vision, new ways of doing things, and very innovative ways of doing things as well. And that's really great. Like you won't find yourself doing labor work or anything like that. But Rahu is a planet of more of the mind. It's only like the represents the head, which signifies that's a lot of thinking that you do, but thinking in a way that's very productive, and then will actually go into many different ways of, I guess, making income as well. So
that is this year in a nutshell for me. It's all a lot of thinking and putting that into practice really and making stuff happen. So that's spot on.
Yes. And going to each house, you can also tell certain fears or phobia that a person might have. So Mars in the third house signifies little, how do I explain? Like not insects, but you like cleanliness. Like there's no, if you see like something dirty or anything like that, you'll have some sort of, not fear, but some sort of way to actually, get rid of it. So it's like, it's with ants, germs, things
germs
like that.
Is a big thing for me.
So that's Mars in your third house. So that explains like, Mars is the planet of action. It's a planet of, but also signifies little, because ants or germs, little tiny things that really come to your mind.
It's funny you should say that, because I kind of want the listeners to know that you're spot on there. I did have quite a severe germ phobia and still struggle a little bit with it, but manage it. But also I absolutely hate crumbs.
Crumbs.
I
Yes.
cannot stand it. Anyone that knows me knows that if there's crumbs on a surface, I have to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I cannot stand
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So that would
yes.
make sense.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a way to just have insight, right? It's not
Yeah.
a way to actually just center your whole house around it and stuff, but
Yeah.
you actually have insight and awareness on how you can use astrology to your advantage.
Yeah.
And say for me as well, like an example is I started my Venus phase. So Venus is a planet of love, relationship. So 6 months before my Venus phase started, 2021, I got married in 2021. 2022 it started. So usually 6 months before the start date is when you start to feel effects of Venus as well.
Wow.
And married my beautiful wife Lorena, and then it's a sign of Venus. Moved into a new house in Hong Kong. So Venus also represents luxury as well. We just did a Gucci photo shoot 2 months ago.
Oh,
so,
wow. That really is luxurious.
So these sort of things, you're just a witness to them. Like you let them play out and you let them arrive. When I was unmarried at first, I was going through this whole phase of K2. K2 is to do with transformation.
Yes.
It's to do with transformational energy. And looking back at it, yes, it was a transformation.
For
like
sure.
I went from engineering to now teaching meditation and going through these holistic ways of well-being.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense. Like when you look back at it, it's like a jigsaw puzzle coming together all together.
It's fascinating. I mean, I've got to say, even with the water, like one of the things that I've always enjoyed, and one of the things that I always used to say to people when I was talking about, trying meditation to my own clients and talking them through the hypnotherapy, I'd say sometimes, your meditation can just be where you find peace.
Exactly.
And mine is always by water.
Yes.
And I would sit on the riverbank and
Wow.
just literally watch water. And the first time I remember how profound it was, I'd gone for an early morning run.
Amazing.
And it was when the sun was coming through the sky, and it hit the water in a way where the water looked like it was glittery.
Wow.
When the sun hits the water and there's
Yes.
ripples. And I just remember feeling this abundance of presence and love and just feeling so grounded in that moment.
Wow.
And then from there, I realised I had this real affinity with water.
Yes.
Not necessarily swimming or, being in the sea, although I do love that, but it was just being near water.
Being near water.
And I've just started the cold plunging in my garden.
Oh, lovely.
Got a beautiful apple tree in front of me, and I
nice.
listen to my meditations.
Eat an
when
apple and cold plunge.
Adam and Eve. No, but I have that whole it's just this beautiful. I've got a really gorgeous garden, this beautiful apple tree,
Yes.
this meditation and breath work going on at the same time in my little earbuds.
Yeah.
While I'm in the cold water, and it's just like the most amazing experience.
Oh, wonderful.
The only problem is, for me, is it makes me really, really sleepy afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So I can't do it at the beginning of the day.
Yes.
Because I've got so much to do. So I realise I have to kind of be with water at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
And it really settles my nervous system.
And then you're aware of that.
Yeah.
You're aware of what works for you and what doesn't. Like I think it's all a experimental game as well.
Yeah.
But I find that now that you're aware of water being your dominant element, it also shows in what we're doing now. Like Ella, you've got an amazing sense of communication and reaching people in a deeper level that allows them to let go and allows them to share with you what they wouldn't even share with their family members. So I already tell, like even just sitting here, I could already tell you have that presence, and that's about being water as well.
Yeah.
Like if we think about it, water in a when it goes into a glass, it becomes a glass. So if it goes into a bottle, it becomes a bottle.
Yeah.
What you're doing now is like reflecting and being with people to share their journeys and actually be in their journey as well. Water. So it shows in every aspect that what we do. And mine is more I guess earth as well. So the grounding process, allowing people if they're very angry, if they're very frustrated, to ground themselves. And I can do that just with being in their presence.
I can feel that. I can feel that
yeah.
because, and I've got to tell you this to reveal something on a personal level. I've had a weekend really sort of feeling not necessarily directly anger, but certainly emotions which would fit into the anger mold.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So a lot of that has been happening this weekend. And I can tell you, again, being around certain people, you kind of, it does ground you, and you're obviously earthy. So it does ground you. You do feel safe, and you do feel that you can be completely yourself around those people. So I think the reason I say that is because some people might be skeptical if they're not open.
Absolutely, yes.
But I'm
yes.
being completely honest about that. Being around someone who is earthy.
Thank you. Yeah.
And earth in themselves is very, very safe and beautiful to be around.
Yes, and yeah, and now that you're aware of it, you can use it in your profession. You can use it when you're talking to people, and it shows. It shows in many, many beautiful ways. So I wanted to point that out as well.
Oh, thank you.
That you'll be listening to your podcast as well. There's so many beautiful people that have been on this podcast who've gone through so much.
Yes,
but yet they have the courage, they have the strength to actually just be here and share their stories, share their experiences.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is very beautiful, very powerful as well. And something I'm going to tell you as well, in 2030, you are going to enter a phase of Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet that, I don't want to compare, but Jupiter is a planet of a lot of fame, popularity. I'm talking maybe like Oprah Winfrey or something.
Wow, you're not the first person to say that.
No, really. By 2030 anyway. Again, November 22nd, 2030. You'll reflect back and then think, okay, yes, he said that. And it's really true. I've got people, celebrities on my podcast who are not really on Married at First Sight, but they've been on, I don't know, Titanic or something. Something legendary. Yeah, Leo.
Leonardo DiCaprio is just waiting. He's on the guest list as we speak.
Let him wait. You can wait.
I'm rather busy right now. 2030 is the year, Leo.
Interviewing the Married at First Sight star.
That's hilarious. Just imagine if that happens and you'll be watching and I told her.
Yes, but
that's funny. No, do you know what I'm going to do? That November 22nd, 2012, I'm actually going to try and explore that because...
Yeah, please do. Let me know, even if,
I will
after
do.
this podcast.
Well,
we're
and
friends
also,
anyway.
Yeah, we will. I will certainly share it. And
yes.
I'm going to, if I can work out what that was, I've got a feeling. So I can tell you that I bought this business in 2014.
Right, okay.
And in 2018, I bought the building. Now, there was a couple of years before that where it may well be that it was something that was the lead up to my next phase.
Because in that phase before 2012, you were actually in Mars. So Mars is a very courageous planet. It's a planet that tells you that you are ready to share your story on a deeper level. Yeah. On a level that will, save another soul as well from making a decision that could impact her entire life. So I find that Mars lasts for about 7 years. So before 2012, you're building those foundations to be able to share your story, because it wouldn't have been easy. It would be very, very, confrontational.
Yes.
It would be very, it would throw you really in the limelight and judgment as well.
Yes.
But Mars gives you that ability to go past that. It gives you that foundation to say, yes, I'm a woman of action, a woman of courage and strength, that I know that my voice will give power to another woman or another man maybe in that situation. So yeah, really hats off to you, and that's why it makes sense, like that Mars energy is really great for you, and it's worked out to build these foundations of where we are today, just sharing these journeys. So
it's so step by step, isn't it? Like everything you've spoken about today, about your journey as well, just going off to India and going into the monasteries and learning all these different styles of meditation, and at a time when you were actually struggling yourself.
Yes.
So I suppose to, I guess, sew up your story, I'd be really interested in the little Dino that maybe didn't know where he was going to end up and had lots of experiences, some of which you might not want to share, but some of which that you may want to share, that kind of, I guess, it's all a story that we don't know what the end chapter is going to be.
Yeah.
But there's those beginning chapters that are just as important.
Absolutely.
So who was little Dino? What was going on then?
It's so funny. Like 2 minutes ago, I was just thinking about my childhood, and you picked it up right there.
I know.
It's like telepathy.
We are aligned.
Must be these flowers. But no.
I love it.
But yeah, little Dino. I was born in Hong Kong, so back then Hong Kong was under British colony.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents raised me. Parents are still together after 55 years. So it's a
Wow.
very great to have, mom and dads together. And in that upbringing, I've got 2 older sisters and as well. So I think being born with 2 older sisters and a younger brother as well, I find having those 2 older sisters was a real blessing, because I think it allowed me to actually learn about women on a very, I guess living with them, it teaches me to most of all respect women.
Yes.
Because, I guess that's what a man, I think, sometimes forgets, that even a man came from a woman. So if you don't respect one, like it goes to show what your character is like as well. So I find like living with my sisters, I learned to, I guess, develop the feminine side with me. We all have a feminine side. Even men do. Men have masculine, feminine, even women. We all do.
We need the balance of both, don't we?
Absolutely, the balance. So that's something I do with the full moon meditations, is to balance that energy out for people through breathing practices, through meditation practices. But I think the younger me was very mischievous as well. So I was,
that's cute.
Yes. So I was probably the troublemaker in the family. But I think my dad was very serious growing up, and I think he had to be, because he was the breadwinner for the family. And my mom was bringing us up, and she was the housewife as well. So I think but along the way, it's made me, because my sisters also worked as well, and in our family, like sometimes being in the tradition wise, women weren't seen like as being able to work, and they were mainly in the kitchen and so forth. But I just love how times have changed now, and it's so much for the better. And it's like so my sisters were very determined to be on their own feet, and not having to rely on anyone. And my wife's the same as well. She went through medical school, and her mom always raised her to know that she doesn't have to rely on a man, like she can be who she wants to be, and especially being a medical doctor as well. And so it is, I'm around inspirational women all the time. Like in some way or the other, I'm learning from them and actually celebrating and respecting them along the way. So it's a real blessing that I have my 2 sisters to upbring me and show me the ways. And sometimes I'd see them crying after bad dates and stuff as well. So it allowed me to actually have that perspective that you need to respect women and I guess learn from them as well. So I've got a huge admiration, respect for this whole feminine energy that we all have.
That's beautiful what you've just said.
Yeah.
Just that sort of, I can almost see the little boy in you kind of almost watching and just absorbing and, kind of probably without even consciously realizing it.
Yeah.
I
really, mean, to a certain extent, they dread to dress me up as ladies sometimes with skirts and nail polish and all that.
I bet you look great. I can see that your lovely hazel eyes would have suited certain colour tones.
Yeah, I wish I had long hair, but
but that's what girls do. They always would have dressed their brothers up.
That's right.
It's just a fact. I've got a brother, and I would have done ridiculous things to him as well, because it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. At the end of the day, it's all fun, laughter. When you look at these photos now, and you're like, oh wow, it brings you laughter. Laughter
it does.
We would know the best medicine we have.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you were quite a happy kid, a bit mischievous.
Yes.
A bit of a cheeky little, monkey sometimes. Yeah. But then I'd be interested in sort of where the depression hit. Was that just from being kind of trapped in that world you didn't really want to be in anymore?
Yes. So basically from high school, my parents were asking me, what do you want to do? And they never really forced me into anything. But I think looking at my friends and the society we were living in, if you weren't like a doctor, lawyer, engineer, you were looked at as an alien. Like, to be honest, you're like, you have to be one of those professions to actually, is it for status? Is it for money? So I thought, okay, great. I'll be an engineer. And my brother became a doctor. He's a medical doctor as well. So he works in the States. But we learned how to be independent at a very young age. So at 16, I moved to Australia, stayed there for 20 years after university, worked as an engineer. So I was very driven by materialistic things. So I was driving like a black 4-wheel drive Hummer. summer, my favorite car, bought property as well in my 20s. And I was really sound, really, well, meant to be happy on paper. But deep inside, there was something missing. There was something that I never really knew who I really was. And always kept, asking myself, what am I doing? What am I here for? And so forth. So back then I was engaged as well to a fiance, and we broke up, in 2012. And that's where it started getting these thoughts about, okay, so what is life? And going through a breakup at the time, it's tough. It's hard. And especially when a man doesn't know how to express himself with emotions, and it's all trapped inside you. And I found at that time, when I was trapping everything inside me, all these emotions, I had digestion issues, bloating. It's all in that space.
It's that cellular emotional response.
Exactly. Yes. So I didn't know what to do, and I sat on it. And there was this one night where I came back. We were working like a week on, week off. So that's how the mining thing goes. So on my week off, it was a complete change, because I've just broken up, and my house was rented as well. So I didn't really know. So I booked out a hotel, and there it was a very dark hotel. I remember that. It was all like brick paving, and it's just really old, dingy, no light at all. And then I see the window, and there's light there. Then it became dark. Then I was just sitting there and thinking, is this really worth it? Is this life really worth living? Having suicidal thoughts come. And I thought, okay, I'll give it one more night. If nothing changes, then the next morning I might leave this world and be happy then, I thought. So that night I had a very empowering dream. And if that dream probably didn't come, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, to be honest. It's that powerful. So this dream was of Lord Shiva, the Hindu god, and he was sitting in a meditative state, all white, and it was on top of a mountain, just sitting in a meditative state. And it was the most peaceful, calm dream I've ever had. More powerful. That image just shifted me in a way that I didn't realize.
Wow.
And I woke up that morning, just tears started flowing, like I'd never cried before till maybe, since I was a child. But it was tears flowing, and it was something like a shift that happened within me. Then a week later from that, I met this brilliant man, Brian, and he was like my Reiki master. So he taught me all about Reiki, all for free, nothing, no charge. Because he said, I was reading a book in a park, and he said, hi, do you believe in spirituality? Do you believe in energy healing? And I said, no. And I thought he was a gypsy at first. I better watch my wallet and stuff, and I was holding on. And then I was talking to him, and he's like, oh, come over to my house. I will show you what energy healing is like, and I believe you have it in you. And it was just so random. But then thinking about it, nothing's random. Like even when a leaf is meant to fall off a tree, it's all pre-planned. It's all written. So I went to his house, and then we started getting into Reiki and pranic healing, and told me everything to do about energy transfer and how one can heal themselves as well. And I thought, wow, meeting the right people now and the right situations. And that's when I decided, okay, I've got to take a year off and go to India and go deeper into what meditation feels like. Because he said, I believe you should take deeper approaches to meditation, and you'll find your own path. And that just did it for me. And
what a story.
So that's where a whole spirituality meditation started. It's from creating this whole shift within you. And that dream,
which is really your subconscious.
It is, yes.
It's really your subconscious telling you what you need to do next.
Exactly.
And it goes back to that beginning, near the beginning of what we were saying about never ignore intuition.
Yes.
Never ignore gut instinct.
Yes.
Really, that was your subconscious and your intuition showing you what to do next. And then a week later, you meet Brian.
Yes.
A stranger who spots you, feels something, is like, let me teach you.
Yes.
That leads on to India.
Yes.
That leads on to this really organic, beautiful experience of learning meditation.
Yeah.
And here we are now, sharing it with people all over the world that listen to this. And your audience is all over the world with Instagram. And, I know that sounds too good to be true to some people listening that are in a dark, dark space.
Yes.
And I know that, with the work that both of us do, that we will come across those people in a dark, dark space. Yes. And what I would say is, and we spoke about this very early on, and you've mentioned the word a few times, authenticity. when you embrace the fact that you're in a dark space, when you embrace that that is who you are at that moment in time, you are in the dark, it is scary, you are afraid, you are angry, you're all those negative things that no one wants to talk about.
True.
Not that that represents you as a whole, but that's what your body is feeling, your nervous system and your mind. When you step into that space and you say, okay, I'm here, and you show up.
Yes.
And then you allow someone who may have been in the dark themselves.
That's right.
To hold that space with you.
Yeah.
That is the trust, and it is scary. I mean, even I still get scared sometimes being vulnerable and authentic because of trauma and past experiences and the brain's natural wiring, you know, through those experiences.
Yes.
And also, I suppose, when, you know, if you've done the work, you think, oh, I'm healed now. I've never thought that, by the way, but a lot of people do.
Yes.
And then something in life will happen and you'll realize that, again, it's the illusion of control or the illusion of expectation.
That's right.
And what I love about your story is that it's, I mean, you use the word random. It is a random experience that you've had. But like you say, there's nothing random about it. It's like that contradiction. But what you've done, I think, is just gone, I'm going to let myself fall and I'm going to trust that I'm going to land exactly where I need to be.
Absolutely.
And however scary the fall may feel.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've spoken so much about flowers, I think you just tend to land in a flower bed. It's a different one every time. There might be a few weeds there, but you're cool with that.
I'm completely cool with that. And embrace that as well. Like, let the weeds hit you. It's okay. It's fine. It's just temporary, like clouds.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, what we shared today is really meaningful because it'll give hope to those who are going through that darkness. Because everyone has their own time.
They do.
Where they will go through darkness.
Of course.
Where they will go through these flowers as well.
Yeah.
So it's about celebrating that and embracing that, and I find that that's where all the answers are. And I find that also with, you know, our stories, it's very unique. Everyone has a unique story.
Yes,
that
they
needs
do.
to be told, that needs to be said, and
And yours is beautiful.
Thank you.
And of course, you know, like you said earlier, we would never have been sitting here today had it have not been for Married at First Sight Australia.
Exactly. It's a blessing.
It is a blessing. And I'm so thankful because not only do I get to connect with you, but straight after we've recorded yours, which is very soon, I'm going to meet, well, we're all going to meet, I've already met, lovely Dr. Lorena, which is your wife.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about some really beautiful things. And again, you know, if you hadn't have done Married at First Sight Australia, Lorena and I would not be having a really powerful and important conversation that other people need to hear too.
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to say that to everyone listening, like, whatever you're going through right now, whoever you are, it doesn't matter whether it's a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, something amazing is waiting for you. All you've got to do is trust the process. And as hard as that sounds, it's following people like you, Dino,
and you,
and myself, and Dr. Lorena, and all of these other people that are sharing really important information. Not because we're important, but because we've learnt it.
Yes.
It's just passing. It's paying it forward, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly is.
Yeah.
And you know, when it plays forward, when you persevere and know that it everything has its process, everything is doing its work. And I
like
think
the seasons.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think there's a higher message as well because, you know, like I said, you know, when a leaf falls off a tree, it's probably predetermined. But that doesn't mean that, you know, we can just let it all fall to destiny and let it all happen like it'll all happen. But you also have to take action as well.
Yes.
Like, say, for instance, like I shared with you that your Mars and Mercury is in the same house. It's beautiful, empowering communication, also taking action as well. If you didn't take action to create this beautiful space, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So when you take action, that's when the higher force supports you in every way. It'll make things move. It'll make people move. All with your action, with your energy. Yes.
Yeah. Use that energy.
Exactly.
And I think you're absolutely right, because one of the things that I always say to people is we are responsible. This is our life, and although, you know, things are out of our control sometimes, that's not the bit you can control.
Yes.
But what you can do is take action, set intentions, not expectations. Yeah. Be intentional and use the force of energy. Move with it.
Yes.
And I think when you do that and have And the biggest thing is, and I think for most people, is fear.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's about going, okay, I'm gonna feel something negative anyway.
Yeah.
I'd rather feel the fear of rejection and maybe judgment rather than the fear of regret.
Yes.
And I think you just choose which fear you tap into, really.
That's right. And that's where we come in as well, to create that space for these people going into fear, to come out of that fear like a celebration or blessing itself. And that's the biggest win, I think, the biggest sense of freedom that anyone can experience when you overcome fear, when you've learned to embrace these fears and learn to celebrate them in a way. Like I always had a fear of heights as well. Growing up in Hong Kong, it's really funny. But then I went to Macau, this place that's near Hong Kong, 20 minutes away. And I did bungee jumping. Yeah. And that's a fun way to overcome your fear. Yeah. And, like at first it was traumatizing looking at these like little tiny cars like this size. But when you do it, you're like, wow, that's all. I want to do it again. And yeah. So you've got to make it fun. Yes. Like you said, trust the process, enjoy it, but have fun with it too. Yes. If you have that mentality of having fun, being playful, you'll have no fears at all. Like your life will be a play itself. Yeah. And
what a beautiful. Now, you've said something really profound there, but I want to kind of wrap it up by letting people know about this book once more, which will be linked into. It's The Minor and Minor, which is obviously you, Who Wins Inner Peace. Correct. By Dino Hira. And it's everything we've spoken about today. Well, you're going to, I mean, it's a beautiful, just to give you an insight, I've just opened it up anywhere in the book. And again, you won't be able to, maybe the camera will zoom in. But it's beautifully put together. There's some gorgeous images and quotes and really, really well set out. I'm going to really enjoy reading
Thank you. At the end of each chapter, there's like practical ways you could create this whole meditative experience in your life. And
beautiful.
Get closer to peace.
Some of the images are just absolutely stunning.
That's a good one. Meditation, the master key to all locks of the mind.
And I honestly, I will. I mean,
thank you.
I said this to someone else the other day. You know, some books come to you at a time when you most need them.
Exactly. Yes.
And I definitely will very much enjoy this. I do need to revisit some of the things that will be in here, and I'm going to really treasure this. And thank you so much for gifting it to me and for being here. You've been amazing.
So yeah.
And now we move on to the lovely Dr. Lorena. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much,
Dina.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Oh, great.